Hello students. So the topic that we are going to study today is types of chemical reactions, right? So there are different type of chemical reactions. Today we are going to study that. So firstly, let us understand what happens in any chemical reactions, right? So as you all have studied till now that, chemical reactions are very fascinating and they take place, around us. So what happens that the existing bond breaks and new bonds are formed, right? And there are certain energy changes that occur during this process. As I've already told you about endothermic and exothermic reactions. So can you all recall what was exothermic and what was endothermic? Yes, you're right. Exothermic. Exo means out. That means heat is released. Endothermic means heat is absorbed. Okay. So these are the types of reactions and we will be looking at them in quite a detail. Firstly, we have combination, then decomposition, displacement, double displacement, and oxidation and reduction. Let us understand combination. Now, combination is, so what do you mean by the English word combination? Yeah, tell me, what do you mean by word combination? Yes, combination is when you combine two things together, right, to make a single product, right? So, as the word only tells us, right, that combination is happening over here, right? So, you don't have to remember this. Just think, what is the meaning of combination? So, here, two reactants combine together to form a single product, right? And here, energy is often released in the form of heat. So if energy is released in the form of a heat, can you tell me which type of reaction is it? Is it exothermic? Is it endothermic? Think. Yes, it is exothermic, right? Exo means out, right? That means heat is released. Let us look at a few examples, right? So calcium oxide in water. See, this is example of a chemical equation which is written with the state symbols. Right? Can you see solid, liquid, aqueous, right? So if you take water in the beaker and if you put calcium oxide, right? Calcium oxide, this produces slaked lime. CaOH twice is known as slaked lime, right? And here amount of energy is released, right? The beaker becomes hot. This is an exothermic reaction. Next is carbon and oxygen, right? So combustion of carbon, right? When carbon gets heated up, we get carbon dioxide, which is again in the gas form. So can you see the state symbols are written as well? Okay. Hydrogen and oxygen, this is formation of water, right? So hydrogen and oxygen combine together to form water. Again, this reaction takes place in laboratories. Generally this reaction does not take place, right? So combination reactions, they are often exothermic. We cannot say that all combination reactions are exothermic, but often, and they release heat energy into the surroundings, right? So this is combination reaction. Two reactants combine together to form a single product. Moving on to the next, that is decomposition reaction. Now, decomposition reaction is that one compound, it breaks down to give us simpler products, right? Now, it requires heat. Basically, if you need to break down something, right? So here, heat, we need to provide heat. For example, first step is, okay, thermal decomposition. That means, what do you mean by thermal? Yes, you're right. That is heat. We provide heat, right? Heat energy is required to break the chemical bond. Let us take one example. You have calcium carbonate. We are providing heat and it breaks down into calcium oxide and carbon dioxide gas, right? And here the state symbols are also written, which is a well written chemical equation, right? And later on you all can check if they are balanced or not, right? Okay. Next is iron sulfate gets oxidized to, Fe2O3, that is an oxide of iron, sulfur dioxide, and SO3 sulfur trioxide, right? Next, we have electrolytic decomposition. That is decomposition with the help of electricity. The word electrolytic means breaking, lytic means to break. That means we are breaking the bond between H2O with the help of electricity, right? We are breaking it to form hydrogen and oxygen. Right, this reaction, we will study it in class 12th in detail in electrochemistry chapter. Next is photolytic decomposition. What do you mean by photolytic? The word photo means light, right? That means in the presence of sunlight, right? Sunlight or light, So silver chloride, which is in solid state, it breaks down into silver, which is in solid state. Chlorine gas is released. This takes place in the presence of sunlight. So such reactions are known as photolytic reactions. One of the reactants, there is only one reactant which is being broken down into two or more simpler products, which is, we can say it is like, the opposite of combination, right? Okay, so this is decomposition reaction. Now let us move on to displacement reactions. Okay, what is the meaning of displacement? Displacement means, okay, a stronger element, a more reactive element, it displaces a less reactive element from its compound, right? For example, I have iron and copper sulfate. Okay, now my question to you is, which one of them is more reactive, iron or copper? Yes, iron is more reactive than copper. So iron will come and it will displace copper from here. And we are getting iron sulfate and copper. Since iron is more reactive, it will displace copper. So one that is more powerful would come and displace the weak element, right? Now, how do you get to know which one is more powerful? So we have the reactivity series, right? So metals which are higher in the reactivity series, they are very strong, very reactive, and they displace the metals which are present in the lower part. So once we connect through Urban Pro, yes, we have classes together, so we can study in detail about the reactivity series. Okay, next is zinc is displacing copper. So zinc displaces copper because zinc is more reactive. It is more reactive than copper. Copper is one of the least reactive elements in the reactivity series. We drink water in copper vessels, right? We do not drink water in zinc vessel. What is the reason? Think, because copper is not so reactive. So zinc displaces copper here and we get zinc sulfate and copper, as you can see, right? So this is very easy displacement reaction. So one element is displacing the other element. The element which is stronger displaces the element that is weak in nature, right? Okay, next is double displacement reactions, right? Now here, what is happening? There is exchange of ions, right, between two compounds that results in the formation of two new compounds. Now here, precipitate is formed. Okay, let us understand. So two ionic compounds. For example, I have sodium sulfate and I have barium chloride. Now both of them are ionic compounds. What are ionic compounds? When metals and non-metals react to form a compound, it is an ionic compound. Here there is a transfer of electron, right? So again, that we will study in detail. Okay. So these are ions. What is happening here? Barium comes in the place of sodium and sodium comes in the place of barium, right? So basically positive ion here would leave chlorine, right? And would come to the negatively charged SO4, 2 minus, right? Sodium here, which is positively charged, it would come near chlorine, which is negatively charged, right? So we get barium sulfate plus NaCl, right? And then we can balance the equation. Okay, so here barium sulfate is precipitated out in the reaction. You get a white color precipitate at the bottom of the test tube, right? So sodium sulfate and barium chloride, you get barium sulfate and NaCl. You can see that the ions have been exchanged, right? Here the first we had Na, now we have Ba. Here we had Ba, now we have Na, that is sodium, right? Ba is barium, right? So you can see that sodium sulfate and barium chloride, they have exchanged their ions, right? So we have barium sulfate and sodium chloride. The downward arrow here, it indicates the formation of a precipitate. Now, this is the example of a perfectly written chemical equation, which has, your state symbols are there, and you can check if the equation is balanced or not balanced, right? Okay, so here new products are formed. And this, in the double displacement reaction, you often see formation of a precipitate, right? We see whether a precipitate is formed or not. Okay, let us quickly do the recap, right? So firstly, we studied about the combination reaction. That means two reactants combining together to give a single product. Next, we studied about the decomposition, wherein one reactant was breaking down to give two or more products, right? Next is displacement reaction, where the more reactive one displaces the less reactive element. Next, double displacement, where the exchange of two ions was taking place to get two new products, right? And here you get to see precipitation as well. Okay, now what we are going to study in the next class is about the redox reactions, oxidation, reduction, corrosion, rancidity, right? So I hope you understood about the 4 different types of reactions that happens around us, right? Okay, so, these reactions, these are the laboratory demonstrations that, you would do in school, or you might have already done. That is burning of magnesium ribbon, right? This demonstrates, okay, can you guess what type of reaction is it? See at the chemical equation. What is it? You are right, it is a combination reaction. Two reactants are coming together to give you magnesium oxide, right? Next is heating of copper carbonate. So we take a salt that is copper carbonate and we heat it, right? It is breaking down into copper oxide plus carbon dioxide. Can you guess what type of reaction it is? Yeah, you are right. It is thermal decomposition. Decomposition means one reactant breaks down into 2 or more products and in the presence of heat. So it would be thermal decomposition, right? Next is electrolysis of water, electrolytic decomposition. Water breaks down into hydrogen and oxygen. And just like we studied, like sodium sulfate plus barium chloride, mixing salts. If you mix salt solutions, they are actually double displacement reactions, right? And we also get to see precipitate of barium sulfate, right? And sodium chloride is formed, right? Okay, so this is again quiz time for you all, okay? So you need to tell true or false, right? That electrolysis of water, is it a decomposition reaction? Is it not? Identify the reaction type, right? From here, write the balanced chemical equation for the thermal decomposition of calcium carbonate, right? Okay, tell me which one of the following would give a precipitate, case A or case B? And fill in the blanks for the 5th question as well. So this is for you to check your own understanding, right? Test yourself. Okay, answers have been given here, but first you need to complete the questions and then come to the answers over here. You can even comment the answers, right? If you have any doubts, you can put the doubts in the comments. Okay, so stay curious, keep experimenting, and if you want to learn with me, we can connect through Urban Pro, right? Okay, thank you so much. I hope you really like this topic. See you in the next video. Thank you.